Yo, heads up, everybody. We're in for a wild ride. My name is M, and we are here with another round of the Eternal Spoiler Breakdown. Today, we're going to be looking at the Unleash mechanic as it was just announced yesterday, or today, rather, I guess, depends on when this video comes up. Regardless, we have a new mechanic. It is one of the more bonkers mechanics that Eternal has ever printed, and I think we're going to be seeing some pretty wild stuff with this. This is up there in like Echo territory for like really interesting explorations of digital design, as well as just like being kind of a wild time in general. The potential for shenanigans here is absolutely atrocious. So first things first, let's talk about what we're talking about, which is Unleash, a keyword that appears on units and spells that says when you play this card, create and draw a copy of it, discard it at the end of turn, and has the additional subtext, which just like a minor note so that you can't infinite combo. Cards with Unleash can't cost less than one. This does include any modifications made to the card. If you give the card a bunch of battle skills, if you increase its strength, anything that you do that alters the card itself also alters the copy. So you can give, for example, something like Carnivorous Terror Lifesteal by using a card to alter it in your hand, and then you can play it and get a copy of it, and then play another one, and so on and so forth. Basically, as long as you have mana, you have a pretty infinite source of value, except that at the end of the turn, you have to discard that card, which, it should be noted, does not remove the card from the game, give the card voidbound, or do anything to prevent you from getting that card back later and playing more copies of it, or from drawing other copies of that card and playing additional copies off of that particular effect. So Unleash cards, at the very least, represent extremely significant value threats over the course of long games where you actually accumulate a lot of power. They make cards that give you a lot of additional power, like, for example, that 6-cost Time Relic that was announced pretty previously to give +3 power. They give those cards a significant amount of additional strength because there are now very specific power sinks that have really, really cool bonus effects. All right, so first example of this is Carnivorous Terror. It's a 4-cost 4/4 Overwhelm Unleash that says when you play another card with Overwhelm, which of course includes other copies of Carnivorous Terror, it gets +2/+2. So at 4, it's a 4/4 with Overwhelm, which, yeah, it's a pretty decent unit overall. It's also considered to be a mob, which is a new unit type for the most part. I think there might be one or two other mobs. I'm not sure if they're going to be like errated in, but I'm guessing that Spirit of Resistance, at the very least, is a mob, and there's probably a couple of others in that particular vein. But yeah, at 4, 4/4 for 4 with Overwhelm. Decent dinosaur, certainly not bad for a blue rare. Probably something that you'd absolutely want to play in draft. Fits everything pretty well, has some good benefits, and also has that nice +2/+2 bonus when you play any other unit with Overwhelm, which includes a large variety of other dinosaurs. But if you have 8 power, then you get to play a Carnivorous Terror for 4 that's a 4/4, then you get to make that a 6/6 by playing a second Carnivorous Terror for 4, which is nuts. That's pretty bonkers nonsense. Like, if you get up to 12, then you get an 8/8, a 6/6, and a 4/4, and if you can reduce the cost of Carnivorous Terror via a wide variety of cards that reduce the cost of cards such as these, there are in fact cards that make dinosaurs cost cheaper, then you can suddenly just fill the board with Carnivorous Terrors that get steadily more ridiculous and impossible. So I would be not going out on a limb to say that Unleash is going to be an extremely powerful throne mechanic. A lot of mechanics are designed for, like, specifically just the set that they're in, or rather for the expeditions that they're designed in. They're designed to be really powerful in limited formats and be good in, like, sort of draft formats. The larger the card pool gets, the less effective some of these particular skills are. In this case, though, this is a battle skill that we're going to be seeing, I would say, fairly often in big mana and big power throne decks, because basically all sorts of cards like this can be used to extremely good effect. Imagine if you managed to reduce the cost of Carnivorous Terror and also give it charge. You can just completely blow out an opponent as long as you can just basically either reduce the cost down or get a significant amount of power to sort of set that kind of thing up. And setting that kind of thing up is not impossibly hard. It is actually very possible to do something like that. Note that, like, it is when you play the card, create and draw a copy of it. I don't know if that would actually apply any, like, on-play effects. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure that Blitzstone wouldn't interact with Carnivorous Terror in the way that you'd want, where it would get charge off the Blitzstone and then the copy would also get charge. But it's possible something like that could be true. I'm guessing more likely that we'll definitely have to see how the mechanics on that one work out. I'm guessing it's more likely that the card will just have whatever text it has when you play it, and the copy will have that text as well. Still, pretty sick stuff. On units, this is pretty bonkers, but the next example is also just a pretty solid example of the kind of nonsense that you can do. Flash Flood. Unleash, stun an enemy unit. If it's already stunned, kill it. Okay, so straight up, 2-cost card that stuns a unit, not really very good, but it is a card that can kill any unit with endurance for 4. Without endurance for 4. So basically, if there's a card that you don't like, you just pay 2, then you pay 2 again. Now that unit is dead, and if you have more power, you can continue to stun units and kill other units. This, at the very least, gives blue a Death Strike style effect at slow speed, but still 4/4 to just kill any enemy unit that doesn't have endurance. So yeah, there's some pretty exciting shenanigans available there. In addition, there's a lot of ways to already stun other units. So if you want to, say, lay down a Crystallize on one turn, and then on your next turn, play Flash Flood, Flash Flood, Flash Flood, that's decent value for what you're setting up. I think you get some decent benefits out of that. Flash Flood is one of those cards that has a little bit less of the sort of scalability of other options. Like a big meaty unit is something that you can modify basically endlessly, and then when you unleash it, you get to play repeated copies of it over and over again, and they'll have charge, or they'll have lifesteal, or they'll have Aegis, and they'll just be kind of completely nuts. With Flash Flood, the card can only be reduced by 1 additional cost, because it has to cost at least 1. But you still get to use it to, and also you have to have a limited number of targets for it, so you have to basically you can kill everything on your opponent's side of the board if you have enough power or you've reduced the cost enough, but it's going to take a decent amount of effort, and you might not get like an insanely powerful effect. So really, really sick. Very, very fun stuff, and overall, like, seems like a really, really powerful option. All right, the last one on our list here is Barbarian Gorillas, and Overwhelm Unleash with Summon, Kill an Enemy attachment. So this kind of combines the aggressive, like, Furnace Mage style, like, we're just going to be like a pretty aggressive unit with a good upside, with the ability to ruin style kill multiple attachments. Barbarian Gorillas is really sick, actually. This card's not amazingly well statted for a 3-drop in fire. Like, 3/2 is a little under par. It still has 3 damage, which means that combined with the Overwhelm, it has some decent reach, and it's going to be a relatively aggressive red option. But, like, the main thing about it is that, like, if your opponent is playing any amount of attachment-related nonsense, you can play at least 2 Barbarian Gorillas at 6, and then you just have 2 3/2s, which is not a bad deal. And you also get to kill one of their attachments, or pop an Aegis and kill that attachment. You get really decent value basically as soon as you jump up in cost, which is really, really nice. Like, most red decks are not going to have a lot of ways to sink this much power later on and want to be, like, fairly aggressive in their curve. Barbarian Gorillas is a pretty good example of how you can sort of take this kind of like utility spell and give it Unleashed to do some pretty wild nonsense. So yeah, I think, like, overall, pretty sick stuff. All right, that is the 3 spoilers that have been shown for Unleash so far, but it's safe to say that any card with the Unleash text box on it has a lot of potential for ridiculous shenanigans and potentially even broken shenanigans. Barbarian Gorillas has the particular side effect of being a little bit cheaper than that 4-cost 4/4, so when if you're reducing the cost of this card down, it's a little easier to get it down to the place where you want to be, and then you also still have an Overwhelm unit that can do some ridiculous nonsense. Plus, notably, if you're playing a Skycrag deck, it already combos super well with the blue dinosaur that gets bonuses every time you play an Overwhelm unit. You can play the dinosaur on 4, you can play 2 Barbarian Gorillas on 6, that gives you an 8/8 dinosaur with Overwhelm. that's a pretty sick time. There's some pretty wild nonsense just off of that. And it's not even +2/+2 for the turn, so you're just getting very big dinosaurs. We already have half of a Skycrag deck here, so pretty neat nonsense. But if you want to do some other wild stuff, you know, give these things Crown of Possibilities and start, like, futzing around with what happens when you draw 1,000,000 of them. Like, maybe we're in like a 4-color deck where you're getting Barbarian Gorillas, they're getting random battle skills, you're pulling them back with Dark Return, and then every time you play them, you get to play more copies of them, and then the ones that you don't have go into the discard pile, which automatically re-enables anything that you want to do that plays cards out of the discard pile. Even when you don't play an additional copy of your Unleashed card, you get something in your void that you can then use to do other horrible nonsense, which, yeah, that's pretty sick stuff. There's a lot of really, really cool effects that you can trigger off of that kind of stuff. So yeah, cost reduction on Unleashed is clearly going to be insanely strong. There's a very obvious reason why these cards cannot cost less than 1, but like, overall, this is a really exciting mechanic. So, like, Eternal Set 1 had the Echo mechanic, and that is one of my favorite mechanics in any card game. It's just a really, really strongly implemented digital design that can't really be done anywhere else, and if you had a physical form of this card game, wouldn't really be a thing that you could play around with too much. Unleash really trends into that design space. It demonstrates, like, the power of Eternal's design as a digital card game. It really opens up some possibilities for crazy shenanigans, and assuming that the developers have had their eyes on these cards very closely, I think it's got a lot of potential for fun. Obviously, the one thing that you have to be really aware of is that if any of these cards are broken in any way, they're gonna be really broken. It's gonna be a wild, wild meta if anything in this particular set gets out of hand, and I think that's gonna be pretty interesting for a short period of time. It may require some patches depending on where we get. Thus far, I'm not seeing huge problems with any of these particular cards, but obviously there's a big card pool to play with in Throne. There's a lot of really fun ideas to fiddle around with, and this is an insanely exciting mechanic. So, if you're looking for new life to be breathed into your Throne game, or if you're just looking for something awesome and fun to do in Expedition and Draft, yeah, this is the set for you. 10 out of 10. This is an amazing mechanic. I'm really, really into this, and I'm very excited to see where Unleashed goes with all of this nonsense. So yeah, I mean, it's in the text. Eternal Unleashed. And I think it's safe to say that we're going to see a few more of these cards. They're going to be really fun, and I'm beyond excited. So, that's it for us. Thank you so much for watching. You can check out our other channel, M Plays, for Arkham content. You can sub here if you want, and we are on Twitch at twitch.tv/LocoPojo. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.